How do you break a world record total? That is what we're going to answer in the next 2 videos on this channel. Guys, if you don't know me, I'm Joe Stanek, and today we are going to be talking to one of my star athletes, Austin Perkins, about his recent performance at Avances Houston, where he unofficially broke the 74-kilogram world record total. Today, we're going to analyze his performance and get some thoughts on what was going through his head, my head, as well as his wife's head, who was helping me handle. And then in part 2 of the video, we'll actually go over the somewhat infamous 6 times per week SBD approach that he used or didn't, as well as his recent training, transitioning into training again after having a child, and most importantly, going over his thoughts for Sheffield and what our goals are. So if you're new to the channel or new to Perk's channel, subscribe to both of us, and we will see you guys in part 2.
So it's funny. I guess we can keep this in or not keep this in, but it's funny how this is great. You have it.
Yeah.
Uh we were at Alico and I'm coming in to train on Tuesday, and then they have the competition up, and then one of the guys that works there comes out and he is like, "Oh my gosh, bro, are you watching yourself right now on the TV? Are you really doing this right now? Is this what we're doing?" And I'm like, "No, who was on before I got here?" And he was like, "I can't believe, look at you, just conceited, just watching yourself." I'm like, "Oh my." And then Sid makes it worse, and she's like, "Yeah, he makes me watch it every morning." No, I don't.
Your wife's sense of humor, my man.
I know she's so funny. Like, oh my God, like she's the funniest person ever. But yeah,
All
well,
right,
let's go
before I feel lonely, even more lonely, shout out to Cristiano Ronaldo of all people who
ahead.
posted this. Um, let's get into it. So leading into this, squats are your bread and butter. I think warm-ups went great. I mean, you were kind of doing your thing where, like, after each rep, um, everything was looking great. You were kind of like in your mood. I'm kind of watching your warm-ups, and I'm talking to Sid about what I usually look for when we're getting you set. You come out and the opener is uneven. What are you thinking here?
Oh, bro, I'm so pissed because like I can't really hear anything either, and I'm like, move it this way, move it that way, and then they're just like, all right, it's whatever. I'm like, no, bro, the rings need to be in like on the same length away, and then they were like, fine. I was like, I'll just do it myself at this point.
Right. And you still smoke it. No
Yeah.
problem. Um, I mean, you've always, well, not always, but for the vast majority of us working together, you've squatted with the racks in.
Mhm.
Do you feel like that's like when you made that change originally, was it just because it helps the bar, bow initially, or like what's your reasoning for that? I mean, I know the reason, but tell the people why.
Yeah, so I just feel more powerful stacked like being stacked right underneath it. And making sure that like the other thing is like when I walk out, it doesn't bump. Because that was like my whole thing is that I would try to walk out and then most of the time it would shift or hit the rack. So that's like the main reason it's not hitting the rack. I guess I could just work harder and just walk directly out, but that's just so much work.
No, and I mean, one of the things that Sid was kind of like yelling at, it was a good walkout. I
Mhm.
will say these walkouts were just really crisp, and I mean, we would expect them to be. You're not really touching anything that I mean, you tripled that weight the week prior to.
Yeah. That's why in
Um,
my head, 305, I was like, well, this is about to be easy. I just tripled this.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
easy.
And I do think, one thing that we didn't touch on with your block this go around, because we made the change going into Worlds, is we'll consistently be doing something like that going forward because we're training into the comps with squats,
Mhm.
whereas before we would taper them. So yeah, we obviously had planned on 320, just because it was a 2.5 up from the previous meet. It made things a little bit easier, and
Yeah.
I mean, obviously this was smoke.
No,
I
yeah, I can't believe people are saying that wasn't depth. That looks like depth on the live stream too. I don't know what people are thinking,
I
but I
think
mean,
I think for a lot of people, because there's like a front angle, it's a little harder to see your hip crease disappear, because you're in all black, and like the lighting doesn't really, especially because you have the full length singlet on. I
mhm.
think it's just a little bit harder for people to tell. But like, you can, when you look from the side, sorry, I'll pause that before we get into bench. Um, you you look from the side and you can see it a lot better that way. To be fair, I think a lot of the calls at this meet were a little generous. They were a little
Yeah.
generous, but I don't think, and I'm saying this with as little bias as I possibly can, because let's face it, I'm going to have some bias no matter what. I think all your stuff looked fine.
No, yeah.
And I'm, you know how brutally honest I can be with some of this shit. Like
No,
I will,
I'm not gonna lie. I think my squats were definitely lower than Sheffield last year.
I think so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
absolutely think
So
so. And that's the thing is like we had three national referees. I think at least the one on the side closest to Sydney. I think she was a category 1 or 2 IPF level referee. So like you didn't get any reds. I think that's more than reasonable. But obviously like the thing that I would say anybody who's like, oh, it's not depth is you went to Worlds and got 9 white lights on all your squats there too.
yeah.
Like it wasn't an issue. So I think we're fine. And if it was a problem, I would be like, dude, we gotta, DDH as we say.
All right. Let's recap squat real quick first before we jump in the bench. I
Oh yeah,
think.
I was gonna say really quickly. So overall, what were your thoughts, and also what were we thinking about the rest of the competition? Because I think that's something that like people that are watching would want to know what was going through your head, not only about your own stuff, but like, are you thinking about everybody else? Are you not paying as much attention? What are your general thoughts on that?
Okay. So initially, I think that's one of the best squat sessions I've ever had. Felt good. Walkouts were amazing, like Sid was saying. I think my brace was really good. I was just locked in on everything on squat, and it's the best I've felt on squat in a long time. Uh, Camera went off, by the way, so we're gonna have to use her stuff.
That's
Uh,
okay.
but I guess. Yeah, I think I want to say it's the best I felt on squat. When it comes to the warm-up room, warm-ups felt great. Felt really confident on everything. When we squatted 270, I was like, boom, this is easy. I feel like if I would have squatted that 295, I think it was that we
Mm-hmm.
opened up with. If I would have
Mm-hmm.
squatted that in the warm-up room, I still would have been like, oh, okay, we're squatting. I would have felt like we were good for 330 to 340 on the day.
I think so many people don't necessarily. I mean, let's face it. Your heaviest squats are still pretty fast,
Mhm.
but like if they want a good example, we can go back and look at your squats from Worlds in Lithuania. Like that third one was a good example of like you can still you can go slow. It's just it
Yeah,
can't be slower than like the average person who has like the craziest grind of all time.
yeah.
I firmly think you could have squatted 330. I think 340 would be a little bit more of a gamble, but 330 would have gone for
Oh
sure.
yeah, yeah. Like I say 100% 330. Like, but as I said, I could squat 340. I think it would be like kind of hard and maybe I would cut it on depth a little bit because it was so heavy.
Right,
But
right.
like you said, it's a gamble. But I feel like 330, a solid attempt, that would be like, I think is fine.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
Uh,
I think everything felt good on that day. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better squat day. Hopefully Sheffield is the exact same way, or I feel a little bit better. But we're not going to change anything, and I'll be healthy on the day. So I think I'll probably feel the exact same way. And we were like, I want to weigh in heavier than we did at this comp as well. I think it was just like
74.0, bro.
yeah, it's just
74.0.
that I don't know why we like dropped weight. Like I think a lot of people also think that I cut because even Joe in the back was like, "Oh, he cut." He was like cutting, and it's like, bro, I didn't cut. Like I just my weight just continuously dropping. Now you can say the day of comp, I woke up like at 74, and we were like, and we might as well weigh in like what we're at. So
Literally.
I kept just eating up back up to 74 throughout the whole day.
Yeah, I'll put the
Breaking
text messages on screen like just to prove
it.
that I mean, I don't know, I could doctor those. But no, just to prove. But yeah, I mean we didn't necessarily go over your taper when we were talking about the block, but the other thing with this meet is I originally did not want to do it, and
Mhm.
I still was kind of adamant like, hey, I don't want to interrupt momentum for Sheffield, but obviously there was a reasonable incentive to go. And so like one of the big things was like we're other than like pull an accessory workout, we originally before the deadlift fiasco, we weren't going to really do much. And admittedly, like that's always how it just happened to work out that your week 5 lined up with this meet. That's the other
Mhm.
thing too, is that it worked out that way. So we just pulled out accessory work, and there's something called edema that happens when you do accessory work that causes water to pool in the muscles. And so when you weren't doing that, I think you're just a hyper responder to, like, I think you get more edema than the average person
Hmm.
when you do accessory work, and it also probably helps, like you mentioned, myo reps. Um, Myo reps are designed to pull more satellite cells to help grow muscle. Like that's the way, that, just to break down some basics of muscle building, satellite cells are pulled into, I'm going to butcher this so bad, but satellite cells are used as new nuclei for, new muscles, for new muscle fibers specifically. So when you're able to kind of get more of those in, I imagine that maybe that's part of the reason why we kind of had, like, because you always do lose some kind of weight when we pull accessories out, but
Hmm.
I've never seen you lose this much weight. So
Yeah.
maybe that's part of it. And admittedly, I do think that the safe bet between keeping all the accessory work in and cutting it, I think maybe what we're going to do going into Sheffield is maybe like just maybe one set, just very light. That way you don't lose quite as much weight. Or we could just do the same thing and assume you're going to lose the weight, but then I
Yeah.
don't
I
feel
mean,
I don't
we
feel
always
comfy with that, because then
we always lose weight though when we go overseas too, though.
that is
That's the
true.
thing.
That is true. I don't know. We'll have to talk that out, you and I, a little bit more before we make a decision with that. But I don't know. In general, like, everything just went so great this meet. I don't know if I want to change that,
And guess what? I had Chick-fil-A the night before.
That too. That too.
10:30 p.m. Chick-fil-A.
But it did end up working out in our favor a lot, because
Hmm.
that put us in a position where we could, I mean, we'll get into it with bench. We use any of the chips that we had access to.
Yeah.
And more importantly, like, weighing in at, what was it, 73.6 was your body weight.
Yeah.
That put us in a position where you were just able to, really just milk the fact that the, good lift score, like, goes up by more,
Hmm.
just for around your weight class. And it worked out really nicely. Now, after squats, obviously, Joe is your biggest competition. He goes 3 for 3. Like, again, just, so the people are like insight into Austin Perkins' mind on competition day when he's against somebody. Like, are you thinking about Joe at this point? Or, like, what are you,
I
let
mean,
everybody know how you're feeling when it comes to that stuff.
to be honest, no, and it's not because I'm like hating on Joe at all. It's because like we had already talked about it and me and Sid had already like had our discussion. Like we didn't come to this competition to win it all.
Right.
So like honestly, it was just me going in. After I finished squat, I was just like, all right, that felt really good. That was really easy. Like my plan was to go in and this meet be RP 7 to RP 8. That was
Right.
like our whole thing. We didn't want to exert, we didn't want to go RP 9 to 10. Like we wanted like literally between 7 and 8. We really didn't want it to be an 8, but like it was fine if it was an 8, but like literally 7 to 8 was like the goal. And like that was in my head. That's what I was thinking about. I was like, oh, that was really easy. And I was like, all right, let's get on the bench. And then like, I mean, I was thinking about like if Amaro was okay, but
Right.
but other than that though, like squat, I was just really happy that everything went easily and it went good. And like I know Joe was a good puller, so in my head, I'm like still not thinking I'm going to win.
Right.
Like, but winning wasn't on my mind. What placement really wasn't on my mind. So if you want to say, I really wasn't worried about anyone.
Right. Right. Now, bench press. This was the ultimate test. So we didn't say it, but you hit the 210 the week previous, and it was
Mhm.
great.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Another big change that we didn't necessarily talk about, because it's not quite part of the training, but you decided it's time to take handoffs. No
Yeah.
more self handoffs. So
Um,
from my perspective, because in the warm up room, I refused to give you a handoff, because I give anybody who's ever in the gym with me, I give the worst handoffs of anybody. And I mean, I've been powerlifting for such a long time at this point. I don't know what it is. I just can't give handoffs well. Luckily, other people were kind enough to do that. Um, and but immediately, like, as you're coming out for this, I'm thinking to myself, oh God, please don't. Whoever's giving the handoffs, just don't butcher them. Don't butcher them. And admittedly, I think the guy was pretty good.
No,
You
I
know?
told him after, shout out TSS spotting and loading. I told him
Yeah.
after, I was like, dude, I appreciate giving me a lift off. This made me be like, okay, I can take lift offs now and not be afraid because we haven't taken a lift off since I think 2021, 2020. Yeah, 2021, I think.
Whatever the Virginia Pro was
Yeah.
back then. That was the
That
last
last
time.
Virginia Pro. That was the last time we took one. I was like, I'm never taking a lift off again. And then
Right.
like this whole time I've been training, getting like for people who don't take lift offs and now like they want to try it, getting as many random lift offs as possible, I think is the best way you can prepare. So you can get like I know Sid is my main lift off person. She gives the best lifts off. She knows how to give off the right amount and she knows where to place it. Right? We're good.
Right.
Um, and people at Alico, some people would be good, some people would be bad. And people would be like, well, I'm not really good at giving liftoffs. Even the president of Alico was like, I've never lifted someone off before either. And I'm like, just give me a liftoff and we'll just see how it goes. Because that gives me time to be like, oh, okay, let me correct it. And I know how I need to correct it or how it's gonna feel.
Right.
So like in my head, I really wasn't worried about the liftoff, and everyone talks good about TSS spotting team. So I just assumed that the guy was gonna give a good liftoff anyway. And then the first liftoff was good. And then after that, I was just like, all right, do the exact same thing.
Right. Yeah, I think that's and that is something that I mean you can definitely say like worlds this past year we saw some pretty big benches get nerfed because people
Mhm.
got shitty handoffs. So it really just kind of depends on who the platform staff is. But for this one in particular, yeah, the first one, I mean, going into this now, you're explaining really nicely to the guy. I think a lot of people know this, but in case for whatever reason people don't know, make sure you have that full minute to get out there, talk to the
Mhm.
person if you're taking a handoff so that they know what to do. And yeah, so we opened up at 192 and smoke show.
Yeah, it
Just
was so fast. That's the fastest I think 192 has ever moved. And I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
go.
Yeah, it was good, man. You're like, I know I have this there. So, before the meet, we were like, okay, I'm looking at the, American record list and I'm like, wait a minute, Taylor's still in the record books.
Yeah.
So we slapped the chip on.
Yeah.
How did this feel taking this weight? Because I know the answer already, but
No, yeah, I was super confident and I had bench 210. So 203, I was like, boom, we're good. We're on track for the same plan as we always were. And then it moved great. Bro, like I balled literally after. Oh my God. It's been so long since we hit a PR. 3 kilos. I'm like, I'll take it. I'll take 3 kilos.
yeah,
Like I was fine if we would have not went 207 and a half and we would have went 202 and a half. Like literally, like this was probably my favorite lift of the comp. Cause
yeah.
like I was literally crying in the back. Like
You
Sid was like,
were?
yeah, I was crying. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
you
like
were.
it was really a good lift for me. That was something I remember forever. Like when I finally broke past the bench plateau.
Yeah. And I mean, we had originally planned on 207 and a half before we ended up weighing in at 74. So we went with the same plan, just, obviously keeping the chip in there. And again, like this was great. I honestly, and I said this to you afterward. I think you could have gone and done the 210 even.
Mm-hmm.
But that was great.
No, yeah. Like
I
I said, I think I feel like I had 10 more kilos left in the tank, to be honest. If we want to be
okay. I don't know about that one. I don't
if you
know
want to
about
be honest, I was saying this earlier, if I would have been at the gym by myself, I would have stacked 10 kilos on top of that.
Oh yeah, throw the red on for sure. Just for fun. Um,
Yeah, like I don't see why not.
yeah, but I mean, overall, this was by far the best bench press that I've ever seen out of you. I mean, obviously, it was 8 kilos over something that's been a plateau on the platform at least for a while now, and to be able to bring the strength that you've had for a while to the platform is huge. I think going forward, a takeaway that we can have for that is generally speaking, as long as we move that last heavy bench press pretty well, we're always going to generally be pretty good for something right around that, depending on handoffs and conditions and things like that. But I think, again, like I said before, depending on the world record, because we know, Funga
Yeah.
is lurking in the shadows with the Asian Championships. But depending on what he sets the world record at, it's not off the table for Sheffield at all.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I think I give him 220. So we'll see. But I think 220 is definitely there for him. He benched it the other day. It was kind of like a touch and go, but I think like no travel for him really. I think he's
Is it no travel? Where's Asian Champs this year?
I'm not saying no travel, but less travel
Less
than
travel.
yeah, than usual. And I think that'll help a lot with a lot of people. So
Yeah. He
um
cuts though, right?
I don't I couldn't tell you.
I want to say he did. I mean, if I mean, you saw that guy at Worlds. He's fucking massive.
Yeah, I know,
You
but
know.
bro, his upper body is like the most built 74. I don't know, dude. But
I'm afraid if he goes to 83 ever, I'm afraid at what he's going to bench press. I feel like he's going to be up in like the 250s.
oh, 100%. That's given.
Nuts.
That's
Absolutely
insane.
nuts.
Yeah, like he's a great guy. We love him good. But no, yeah, I think bench is the best it's felt. I can say the last time I think bench felt as good was that meet we did in Arizona. Like my
Right.
first comp after I
After
got
the
permanent.
hernia.
And it wasn't that much at the either. I think it was 402 or 396, something like that.
It was 402.
Uh, but it was easy though. It was the easiest 402 I've because we were so surprised how fast it moved. I felt the exact same about this competition. I feel like bench was like super easy and it felt really good on the day. So
Yeah.
like I think I had 10 more kilos left. If you want to be honest, you could say 7.5 to be safe. But I feel like I was on that day, dude. I could have benched whatever.
I think it would have depended on the press command. Like, if you want my for sure, I think 5.
Yeah.
But
I
like,
think 5 is safe. Yes, 5
I
is safe.
think depending on the press command, I could see up to 10. But if we're talking for sure, I think you had 5 kilos left for sure. Um, yeah, and the other big takeaway from this too is despite the fact that you lost all that weight, and I mean, we didn't really talk about this, but we weren't super on the ball with your nutrition after we finished hydrating you up.
Yeah.
After that, you didn't really have any carbohydrate, which you usually do. You usually have a little bit of like, a leave or Advil or whatever, just to kind of make sure that, the usual aches of competition day don't add up, and you still were able to do this like crazy. So I think that just goes to show us that if we're smart about the way that we actually get down to that body weight for cutting, and we nail everything like we usually do, don't like take too heavy of a last bench. And then surprisingly, this was the other thing too. I was a little worried that your last session was kind of like hard, but again,
Oh,
we
oh my
well, so your last sevens were a little hard, but admittedly, now we know for sure that even if those sevens are a little hard, it primes you. And that just goes to show you like the weight itself. If it's easy to recover from, you're fine.
yeah.
That's fine. And again, now that we have the data, I'm a lot more confident in that.
Hmm.
Just with this being our, kind of our first time really testing this new micro into a comp, I'm like, if it doesn't go, you know what I mean. But
So 175 at the end of this block is what you're saying?
oh, for sure, yeah, that's
Okay.
the goal. Even if it's just for one set, we'll definitely do something like that. Which I think the internet's gonna be like 175 for 7. I mean, yeah,
Right.
yeah. second heaviest bench ever in the 74s. Like, yeah, you should be able to do that. I mean, obviously it's not like super duper paused or anything like that, but still.
Yeah.
All right, so deadlifts. Let's talk before we get into the attempts. Let's talk about the warm up room, right? So
Yeah.
at this point, we know like it's definitely you and Joe. Everybody else has kind of dropped off through the meet. Some lifts haven't gone according to plan for other people that might have potentially been a threat. We know it's you. So we've been kind of gabbing about it a little bit, and you're just like, maybe we should pull sumo, and you pull that first one with the red, and you're kind of like, and
Yeah.
then you go back to do it, and what do I cue for you?
Oh, you say toes out. Oh, you said toes out and look forward. I never remember the look forward part.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. You're basically like keep those eyes forward. And I was like, all right, bet. Deal.
Yeah.
All right, that's
So
it. That's all I had to
little
hear.
I mean, little history with Austin in general is he always tends to start his pulls looking way too down at the ground. And this could be a lesson for anybody, honestly. And this can actually apply to either deadlift stance, admittedly. But if you're looking too down on the ground, we kind of have a natural instinct to move our center of mass according to our head, because if we were to fall forward, our reflexes would want to catch us, because if our head goes forward, there's a chance we could die. So because of that, a lot of people, when they look too down at the ground, they start forward and not really able to leverage the bar properly.
Mhm.
So I know my athlete, and I was like, just do this. And he also has a tendency to sometimes start his sumo with his feet too forward. So
Mhm.
instantly corrected those two things, and boom, he's just pulling like he has been doing it the entire time, which literally the entire time, Sid and I are just kind of looking at each other, just like, what the heck? And then, just because I'm not going to let you forget it, what was it, after 3 reds or something like that? The second time, you're like, oh, I'm ready. And you're skipping backwards. And
Yeah, and I fall over the deadlift jack in front of the whole warm-up room. Oh my God.
I wish somebody would have gotten that on video, man. Oh my
I think I
God.
said it to Sid. I was like, I'm so happy that nobody caught that on video.
Oh, that was too funny. Obviously you didn't hear it, but the gasp that the warm-up room collectively gasped was just too funny. Um, and I mean, luckily you were okay, because obviously that could have been really bad. Like you
Yeah, I was.
fell straight backwards. You could have hit your head
No,
bad.
yeah, yeah. I was like, after I fell, I knew what I tripped over instantly. And then I was like, well, I know that since it was the Lico deadlift jack, I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna definitely pass the thing. And then I was like, there's no point. I've seen so many people fall and then try to catch themselves and breaks their arm. So I'm
Right.
like, bro, I'm like, no, I'm just gonna accept my fate. And I just I'm like,
And Sid and I are both kind of like looking at each other, and we're like reaching for you in slow mo. No. But yeah, luckily you were okay. But I mean, after that point, like we went through your usual warm-ups. You always start with 3 reds, you do it twice.
Mhm.
And I mean, yeah, everything just flew as if you had been pulling sumo the entire time. And so we had planned, if the deadlift taper had worked with conventional, we had planned to go as high as 330.
Mhm.
And I mean, we kind of stuck to that plan, and we set the opener with what we did, and we came out and we're ready to rock. So 295 we opened with, which again, admittedly, the week before you tripled this with conventional. So, we knew this was going to move no matter what, right?
I honestly didn't know how it was gonna move.
So you're lining up for this and you're like, fuck, I don't know if this is going to move.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm just gonna pull this super hard. And then I was like, oh, okay. I was like, wasn't that bad?
And then you still backed up. You still did that. I'm just waiting for you to hit the display by accident.
Oh my God. And then
Uh,
after this, I'm like, oh, so in my head, actually, pause this one. So I don't know what I'm listening to on my headphones. Usually I can remember, but on my second attempt, I don't know. But I'm like not even like paying attention to my music anymore. And I'm looking, I'm like, wait, that's 315. And I'm like, in my head, I don't know why in my head I was like, I'm pretty sure we're supposed to go 305. But because I can't remember the attempts.
yeah.
I'm like, damn, they're pushing it super hard right now. I was like, damn, what's going on? I was like, is he like, did he put something crazy on? And I'm like, I guess it really doesn't matter. I was like, in my head, I'm thinking like, oh, okay, we're just trying to secure second, I guess. Um, and just make sure we get second, basically. That's in my head. Like, I'm not thinking like this is putting us in a position like fight for first. I'm just thinking like, oh, okay, like I'm accepting my fate at this point. And I'm like, all right, they just want to solidify it on this one, and then like we'll probably go like 320. Because like we still don't know how much I can pull because I haven't pulled sumo. In my head, I'm still thinking like we're gambling at this point. I'm still thinking I'm like, we're shooting dice, and I don't know. But I look at 315, I'm like, damn, this might be pretty heavy. I just failed 5 more kilos than this like last week, bro. I'm like, what are they doing right now?
I think this was one of those moments where I was just like, okay, I have explicit trust in you, in your ability to execute. Um, and I mean, looking at that first attempt, like the bar speed was just crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
It's crazy
there
fast.
there was no reason why, even if it was heavy, why you couldn't pull 315 in my mind. And it actually, you are technically right. 315 was the number that no matter what, like I was mathing it out, even if say like somebody had loaded up, I think I forget who was in third for the men. Angelo, I think. Yeah, because well, he wasn't quite in position at that point, but I was kind of thinking it was either going to be Angelo or Meech when I was looking at the different scores. Depending on how everybody made or missed and different things like that. And I was thinking to myself, because I'm using the calculator, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, like if he pulls this, I don't like they would need beyond their top end to be able to pull past you at that point. So this was
Okay.
technically to secure second no matter what,
Okay,
which
okay,
was
okay.
the other thing that I was kind of thinking to myself when I was going through this in my head. And again, shout out to your lovely wife. She was obviously putting in the attempts and doing a great job being my co-handle on this one. And
Mhm.
obviously having a teammate to handle someone with makes things so much easier. But yeah, I don't know. I actually had the utmost confidence in this. I immediately when you came off the platform from that opener, I was just like, he's got this no issue. And well, yeah, it went that way, man. Again,
No,
I think when you're looking up, when you look down versus up, your knees tend to be a little too over the bar. But when you look
mhm.
up, you actually pull slack properly, and your knees aren't like they're your shins are pretty vertical at that point. Or you
Yeah.
just who are you doing this to
No,
out in the crowd?
this guy in the crowd was like near the front, and he was like, "Berg, Berg," and he's like mimicking conventional, and I was like, I was like, he's like, "Why are you not pulling conventional?" I'm like, "Bro, I don't know."
Yeah, it's because they poke the bear. They're like
Right.
nah. Okay, so this one, obviously, I've been doing the math. We originally put 330 in just as like a placeholder, or 335 in as a placeholder because even jump reasonable makes sense that after your second that was really fast. People might be like, okay, he probably has that. But I was doing math and I'm thinking to myself, okay, based on Joe's second pool, which at this point we didn't talk about this, but he actually changed his opener to basically be around what I assumed his second attempt would be and came out and did that. And it wasn't like an easy opener, but it wasn't unreasonable either. And
Yeah.
so he came out and he had pulled, I think it was what, 377 and a half or something like
Mhm.
that. So that was for a new American record in the deadlift and the total, which was, crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and at that point, like you could see on the screen here, he's technically ahead of you.
Yeah.
And that was the whole point, which admittedly, shout out to Eck and Joe. Like that's reasonable strategy, right? It
Mhm.
forces you to execute and it forces you to not necessarily go top end, which I think was the whole point. But immediately, like I'm doing all these different calculations and all that while Sid's powdering you. We kind of talked a little bit about like what your top end would be. You are an unreliable narrator when it comes to that. So from now on, I'm never asking you again. Um, I do these calculations and I'm like, Joe's going to have to pull on like something, crazy in order for this to work.
Mhm.
I think, what was it, like three
383, I think.
86? No, it was
Oh.
386. I remember it being like 9 kilos basically.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, like I'm thinking to myself, his second already looked pretty hard. He even though he can grind, his grind's always like the secret to knowing how much Joe has is how much his hips drift back off of the floor, and they really drifted back. So this was a safe bet. And again, it put you in a position where like you didn't have to make the same jump from second to third.
Mhm.
Again, this is uncharted territory because you haven't touched this weight, so there's a little more risk. But I still felt really good about this. How like when you saw the weights being loaded, how did you feel about it?
Oh, I think I already knew that I had to pull 330 because you guys had say so. Sid told me or something, and I think,
Yeah, Sid had told you.
"Oh, okay." And she was like, "You think you can pull that?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I really," because at first I was like, I mean, 335. I was like, "You told me that," and I was like, "I can pull 335." I was like, I'm pretty sure that I can in my head, but sorry, Sid's right there. But no, yeah, so I was super confident if you would have put 335 on. I knew it probably would have been like definitely towards like the 8 to 9 range, but I still knew that I would get it. Like I still had like I think I told you like 70%. And 70% for me, I'm like, yeah, I can get it. It's not like a 50-50. 50-50 is kind of like a should we do it? But 70 to me, I'm like, yeah, I'm confident. Like it's
Se-
fine.
70 is also in that range where I'm like, okay, he could probably get it up, but there might be some technical faux pas as well. Because
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but I was also debating on maybe we could add because we have the chip at this point because you have the American record deadlift at
Hmm.
326. I was like, oh, maybe we could go for the chip just to add the extra, few kilos. So I think it was 333 is what I was contemplating in the back,
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was like, you know what? No, like no reason to like make there be some potential for like I forget exactly. I think it was like point 0.75 or 7.8 good lift points. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't necessary because it really admittedly only would have forced Joe to pull 3 more kilos as well. And again, I'm thinking to myself like he doesn't have 9 kilos, let alone 12. So
No, yeah, that's what I was thinking whenever I think me and Sid talked a little bit about it after she got done putting baby powder on my legs for it. I was like, "Oh, did we put on?" I think asked her if did we put on? Oh, someone's crying. Um, put on enough to win or something, and she was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "How much more on?" I was like, I think I asked her like, "How much did Joe go up?" Or like, "How many more kilos did you put on?" or something like that. But in my head, I know for some reason I said like, "Oh, he definitely doesn't have 10 more kilos," because I watched it second, and I was like, yeah, he's a really good puller, an amazing puller. But I was like, that second was really hard. I was like, I don't see 10 kilos. And I think he added more than 10 kilos, if I'm correct, right? From a
It was
second.
9. It was 9.
It was 9, yeah. So I was like nine. I was like maybe five, and I would have been like, oh, okay, maybe. But then like there was no doubt once I knew it was 330. There was no doubt in my head that I could pull it. So I was
Yeah.
kind of like in my head, I was like, I had one. Like it would have been like a miracle for him to pull it off. Which like, you know me, I'm like, well, we didn't really try on anything like to push like top end. So I was
Right.
like, in my head, I'm already thinking like I'm gonna get second going into the competition. That's what we talked about anyway, was like, let's just try to secure second.
Yeah.
Uh, but then at that point, I was just like, yeah, he doesn't have enough. And there's nothing against him, but it's just based off his second pull, it was so hard. Like
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. Exactly. And I don't know, like seeing you like just the way that you're approaching this here, all of your best pulls, you've always kind of come out and just had this like kind of laser focused look that we've got going
Mhm.
on right here. So I don't know, like looking at this afterward. Oh, so right here, really quick, you can see me on my phone here. I'm literally like flipping through my tabs on the good lift point calculator, just making sure that I didn't screw something up because I had the change sheet for 333 in my hand. So I'm like,
Okay,
okay,
really
they
good.
haven't called bars loaded yet. I'm just like double checking just to
Yeah.
make sure. And I'm like, okay, we're fine. We're fine.
Also,
Um,
fun fact, like halfway through this, I was listening to I'll Make a Man Out of You from Mulan. That was the song that was playing. And then halfway through I switched it and started playing You Say Run. Like it was like
what
a
what an edit. Somebody make an edit of Perk's last deadlift for those two
right.
fused together somehow. But yeah, this was crazy. I kind of wish we got that side angle a little bit because I would really
Yeah.
like to see your side position on that. But I
I was
mean, dude,
definitely forward. That's the reason why it was as hard as it was. And because it slowed down towards the top end, I was definitely a little forward uh on it. And that was just yeah, that was it. I couldn't like it was just weird. Like it was just like right here, I'm so forward.
you know what's funny is I kind of see it, but at the same time, like right here when you pull the slack, your hips are still in a
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
good
yeah.
position. So I think it was probably just your center of mass that was forward,
Hmm.
but it was enough, right? And again, it's not like we can expect after doing like literally no sumo. It's not like we can expect it to be technically perfect,
Yeah.
but for no sumo, like this, I would still say this is like 98% of like what your best deadlifts look like,
Yeah.
you know? So that was pretty good. And I mean, admittedly, we can flip over to it because I think it was in the annotations here. Obviously, you know what's funny is in the Reddit thread about your meet performance, people thought it was like odd to see you shake the judges' hands. And I'm like, is that not a common thing? I feel like everybody does that.
I mean, I do it. I think I do it at every comp years. I definitely did it at Sheffield.
Yeah. I don't know, but like everybody was, yeah, so it was 386. So yeah, basically 9 kilos, a little bit less than that. But obviously, like afterward, we'd finished, and unfortunately, we just kind of had to sit and wait.
Yeah.
So I mean, this was a valiant effort by Joe, and obviously, he had a fantastic day. He was kind of making things, as hype as he could, and it just wasn't quite there. But I know Joe's very determined to take the pound for pound king title from you, but
Yeah.
just one quite there on the day. Um, so
Still a really
I
good day though. It's crazy. I hate I hate it for him. I guess I don't hate it for me because it's a good position, but I hate that every time he does something crazy, it always gets overshadowed by me. Like when he hit 800 and a half, like it was the time I hit 851. And everyone
yeah.
like didn't say anything. Like if I wasn't there, that would have been the thing that everyone talked about. And
Well,
then now that I broke the record, and made it easy on like this day. They're like people aren't really super hyping up the 904, but that's still like no other 83 has hit over 900, and he's done it twice.
No, and I mean, yeah, a lot of 83s aren't even close to that. You
That's what
know,
I'm saying. Like I hate that for him. Like that sucks. Like that's
and I don't doubt that Joe is going to put tons of work into Sheffield. I mean, everybody who's doing Sheffield is obviously putting a ton of work in, and I think that's a perfect way to transition to the last thing, which is our thoughts going into Sheffield, man.